Welcome to another Grace Notes episode. You ready to stand on business today?
Absolutely.
We're going to be looking at Pastor Arthur Connor Jr.'s sermons,
Right.
specifically the ones he did on the biblical figure of David.
Right.
We've got 2 sermons that are up on YouTube that we're going to kind of unpack.
Okay.
And I'm really excited to see what we find.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, and I think, even if someone isn't coming from, a faith background,
Yeah.
there's still so much to learn from these stories and how Pastor Connor, breaks them down and makes them relatable.
Definitely, he's really good at connecting those ancient stories to modern life.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that really stood out to me was this idea of faithfulness and small assignments.
Yeah.
So he talks about how David, became king, right?
Right.
But before all that, he was just a shepherd,
Yeah, just a humble shepherd.
taking care of his dad's sheep. And Pastor Connor really emphasizes that, it was David's dedication to even those seemingly mundane tasks
Right.
that really laid the foundation for his later success.
It's like how you do anything is how you do everything you know.
Right, exactly.
You can't expect to be given great responsibility if you haven't proven yourself faithful in the small things.
And you know what I love is he uses this great example from his own life
Oh, yeah.
to illustrate this point.
Yeah, what was it about?
He tells the story about his friend Gibson,
Uh-huh.
who ended up having this really impressive career as a public speaker.
Wow.
But guess what his first job at the church was?
I don't know. What was it?
Handing out bulletins.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Isn't that wild?
You just never know where those small beginnings might lead.
Exactly. And Pastor Connor really drives home that point, even in that simple task
Yeah.
of handing out bulletins.
Right.
Gibson was demonstrating, those key qualities.
Like what kind of quality?
Like consistency, reliability, a positive attitude.
Right, being dependable, showing up on time.
Exactly. And those are the qualities that translate to any field.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And it's so interesting because, he brings in this verse from the Bible, Luke 16.10.
Okay.
And it says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much.
Powerful.
And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much.
Wow, that really puts it into perspective.
It does. And, it makes me wonder,
Yeah.
do we sometimes overlook the importance of those little things?
I think so. It's easy to get caught up in the big picture
Right.
and forget about the foundation.
Yeah, we want the glamorous roles. We want to, be leading the big projects. But are we paying attention to the details?
Right.
Are we showing up with excellence even in those everyday tasks?
It's a good question to ask ourselves.
It is. So speaking of big projects and challenges,
Okay, here we go.
let's talk about David and Goliath.
Yeah, classic story.
Right, so Pastor Connor uses this story to illustrate his second principle, which is discipline, delegation, and excess baggage.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so he points out that before facing Goliath, David rose early in the morning
Okay.
and left the sheep with the keeper.
Interesting. So he was already practicing delegation even back then.
Exactly. And I think what's fascinating here is not just that he delegated, but what he chose to delegate.
Yeah, what do you mean?
So he left the sheep representing, his responsibility,
Okay.
but he took his staff, which symbolized his authority.
Okay, so he was entrusting someone else with a specific aspect of his duty,
Exactly.
but he wasn't relinquishing his leadership role entirely.
Right. It's like he was strategically allocating responsibility.
Yeah, making sure the right people were in the right roles.
And then there's this other part that I find really intriguing.
What's that?
Remember how King Saul offers David his armor?
Oh, yeah, trying to equip him for battle.
But David refuses.
He did. Why was that?
Because it was too heavy, ill-fitting. It wasn't suited to his strengths.
Huh. That's interesting.
And, it makes me think about all the baggage we sometimes carry in our own lives.
Baggage? What do you mean?
Those habits, those thought patterns, maybe even relationships that are weighing us down.
Right, those things that hold us back from moving forward.
Exactly. And, Pastor Connor cleverly connects this back to a story from Exodus,
Okay.
where Jethro advises Moses to delegate tasks.
I vaguely remember that story.
Yeah, so Moses was basically overwhelmed trying to do everything himself.
Oh, so it's a classic burnout situation.
Exactly. And Jethro steps in. He's like, dude, you need to delegate.
Wise advice.
Right. You need to empower others to share the responsibility.
It's a timeless leadership lesson for sure.
It's about working smarter, not harder, and recognizing when we need to seek support.
I love that.
So I'm curious,
Yeah.
what resonated with you about this principle of discipline, delegation, and excess baggage?
Well, I find myself thinking a lot about how I approach time management?
Yeah.
Am I trying to juggle too much at once?
Mm.
What could I potentially delegate or even eliminate entirely to free up my energy for the things that are truly important?
Those are great questions to ask.
Yeah, I'm still working on finding that balance.
Me too. It's an ongoing process.
Definitely.
Now, this next point from Pastor Connor really hit home for me.
Now go lay it on me.
He talks about being consumed by God's glory, not our own.
Interesting.
And he emphasizes that David's courage, when he faced Goliath, it stemmed from his concern for God's reputation.
Not from his own desire for glory.
Exactly. He wasn't out to make a name for himself.
Wow, that's a powerful distinction.
It is, and it's so relevant in today's world.
Right, where everyone's trying to promote themselves.
Yeah, it's all about self-promotion and achieving success at all costs.
Building your brand.
Exactly.
Yeah, getting those likes and followers.
And Pastor Connor contrasts this with the story of the Tower of Babel.
Oh yeah, where they try to build a tower to reach heaven.
Exactly. It's a story about ego and ambition gone wrong.
Right. They were so focused on making a name for themselves that they completely lost sight of the bigger picture.
And ultimately their project failed.
Yeah, because it was built on a foundation of pride.
Rather than a genuine desire to connect with something greater.
And I think we see echoes of that in our modern world too.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about the obsession with social media.
Right.
The constant striving for validation and approval.
It makes you wonder, are we building our lives on a foundation of something truly meaningful?
Yeah.
Or are we just chasing after fleeting moments of fame and attention?
That's a deep question.
It's a question we all need to grapple with.
Yeah. Are we living a life of purpose, or are we just caught up in the pursuit of personal glory?
So how do we shift that focus?
Right. How do we move from a place of ego to a place of genuine service?
Well, maybe that's something we can explore further.
Yeah.
But before we move on,
Okay.
I want to make sure we touch on this fourth key takeaway.
All right, what is it?
Commitment despite criticism.
Yeah.
So even with his pure intentions,
Yeah.
David faced negativity
Oh, yeah, of course he did.
from both King Saul and his own brother Eliab.
Family can be the toughest critics sometimes.
Right, and Eliab's words are pretty harsh,
What did he say?
He accuses David of having presumption and evil in his heart.
Ouch.
I know, right? It's like he was trying to sabotage his own brother.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it's a reminder that even when we're on the right path,
Yeah,
pursuing something meaningful, we're going to encounter critics.
definitely.
And sometimes those critics are the people closest to us.
It's true. The people who should be supporting you the most
Yeah.
sometimes end up being your biggest detractors.
And, Pastor Connor has this great line.
Okay, I'm listening.
Critics are often those doing the least.
Oh, it's good.
Isn't it so true?
It is. It's easy to sit back and judge,
Right.
but it takes courage and effort to actually step into the arena.
Exactly. And I think that's where discernment comes in.
Discernment, what do you mean?
We need to learn how to filter feedback.
To distinguish constructive criticism from noise and negativity.
So not all criticism is created equal.
Exactly. Sometimes it's coming from a place of genuine concern,
Right.
but other times it's simply meant to tear us down.
To discourage you, to hold you back.
And developing that ability to discern,
Yeah.
to know which voices to listen to and which to tune out,
Right.
that's crucial for staying focused on our goals.
Like David tuning out his brother's negativity.
Exactly.
And trusting in his own connection to a higher purpose.
It makes me think about times when I've let negativity hold me back. Have I ever given too much weight to the opinions of people who weren't really invested in my success?
That's a good question to ask.
It is. We all need to check ourselves on that sometimes.
Definitely.
So maybe that's a good segue into our final principle for this part of the deep dive.
Okay, I'm ready.
It's contentment in the present assignment.
Contentment.
Yeah. Pastor Connor highlights how David found fulfillment even in seemingly humble roles.
Like he even played the harp for the sheep.
Really?
Yeah, he wasn't constantly looking ahead to the next thing.
Right.
He was finding meaning in the moment.
I feel like that's such a countercultural message these days.
It is. Everyone's so obsessed with what's next.
Yeah.
Always striving for more.
Always climbing the ladder.
But David's story encourages us to slow down, appreciate the present moment.
To find joy in the journey.
And it reminds us that our worth isn't tied to our position or our achievements.
It's about who we are.
Exactly. Pastor Connor points out that David was actually happy when his father didn't even consider him for leadership.
He was content just being a shepherd.
He was content in his current role.
Wow, that's powerful.
It's a powerful reminder that true fulfillment comes from within.
Not from external validation.
So here's a question for you to ponder.
All right, hit me.
Are you constantly looking ahead to the next thing?
Ooh, good question.
Or are you finding ways to cultivate contentment in your current situation?
That's something I need to think about.
What makes you feel fulfilled and engaged in the present moment?
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's something to reflect on.
Definitely.
And maybe it's something we can continue to unpack.
Okay.
As we move into the second part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. I'm ready for more.
Stay tuned. We've got a lot more to uncover from Pastor Connor's sermon.
Join a Bible study small group and grow deeper in faith with your Metropolitan Baptist Church family. Call our office at 954-963-0634 or visit metrobc.us to find a group near you. Don't miss this chance to connect, grow, and be encouraged.
Welcome back.
So glad you're still with us. You know, it's amazing how Pastor Connor weaves these threads together.
Yeah.
Connecting David's story to our own modern challenges.
Right.
He really paints a picture of how to face those, giants in our lives.
Absolutely.
Whether they're internal struggles or external obstacles.
For sure.
Speaking of facing giants.
Okay.
There's this detail in Pastor Connor's second sermon about David and Goliath that always stuck with me.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So he points out that David chose 5 smooth stones from the brook.
Smooth stones.
Mm-hmm.
Not just any rocks.
Why do you think that's significant? Well, it shows that David wasn't just relying on blind faith or brute strength.
Okay.
He was strategic, thinking about the best tools for the job.
So those smooth stones, they would have been more aerodynamic.
Exactly.
More accurate for slinging.
Right. It wasn't just about showing up. It was about showing up prepared.
That's a great point. It's like a leader preparing for a big presentation.
Exactly.
Doing their research.
Right.
Crafting a compelling argument.
And it also ties back to that idea of delegation we discussed earlier.
Oh, yeah. How so?
David didn't try to carry everything himself.
Right.
He left the sheep with a keeper and trusted others to handle certain responsibilities so he could focus on the task at hand.
So it's about knowing your strengths and focusing your energy on what you do best.
And also recognizing that we don't have to do it all alone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most effective leaders are the ones who know how to build a strong team and delegate effectively.
And there's another layer to this delegation piece.
Yeah, what's that?
Remember how David refused to wear Saul's armor?
Oh, yeah, it was too heavy for him.
Right, it was ill-fitting. He recognized that carrying unnecessary burdens would only hinder him in battle.
So what's the modern-day equivalent of that?
Well, it's like, what baggage are we carrying?
Baggage. Interesting.
That's weighing us down, preventing us from moving forward with clarity and purpose.
What kind of baggage are we talking about?
It could be anything past hurts limiting beliefs.
Okay.
Even material possessions that are cluttering our lives.
Oh, so it's not just about physical stuff.
Right. Sometimes letting go of those things is the key to unlocking our full potential.
So it's about identifying and releasing those things that are no longer serving us.
Exactly. Now, Pastor Connor takes this metaphor of the giant even further.
Oh, really? How so?
He draws a parallel between the literal giant Goliath and the metaphorical giant of sin.
Okay, that's interesting.
He talks about how we're all like those Israelite soldiers, paralyzed by fear, unable to face the giant on our own.
So it's this universal human experience.
Right. We all have those moments where we feel overwhelmed and powerless.
Absolutely. Those times when we feel like we're up against something way bigger than ourselves.
But the good news, as Pastor Connor reminds us,
Yes. What is it?
Is that we don't have to fight this battle alone.
Oh, thank goodness.
We have access to a power greater than ourselves.
Okay.
A power that can help us overcome even the most daunting challenges.
That's reassuring to hear.
It is. And, it's not about denying the reality of those struggles. It's about approaching them with a different perspective.
So it's a shift in mindset.
Exactly. And that perspective comes from God.
Faith.
From trusting in something beyond ourselves.
It's about recognizing that our own strength and willpower are limited.
Right.
So it's about surrendering to something bigger than ourselves.
And I've always struggled with that idea of surrendering control.
Yeah, letting go can be scary.
It is letting go and trusting in something I can't fully comprehend.
It takes a leap of faith.
But Pastor Connor's message really resonated with me.
In what way?
It's not about passivity. He encourages us to walk in victory.
To walk in victory.
To live with the assurance that our giants have already been defeated.
So it's about claiming that victory in advance.
But how do we actually do that?
Yeah,
that's the big question.
How do we cultivate that sense of unwavering faith?
Especially when we're facing difficult circumstances.
Yeah, when those giants seem insurmountable.
It's a journey, isn't it?
It is.
And it's different for everyone.
All right. There's no one-size-fits-all answer.
But I think it starts with those principles we've been discussing.
Oh, yeah. What are those again?
Faithfulness, discipline, delegation, contentment.
Right. It's about showing up each day and making choices that align with our values, even when it's hard.
Exactly. Even when we're tired, even when we're facing setbacks.
It's about trusting that we're being guided, even when we can't see the path ahead.
And it's about surrounding ourselves with people who support our growth. So as we move into the final part of our deep dive, let's reflect on how we can apply these principles in our own lives.
Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. with Reverend Rodman Cory at the chapel as we dive into the books of 1st and 2nd Peter. Discover timeless wisdom and encouragement for living faithfully in challenging times. Don't miss this opportunity to grow in your walk with Christ.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Pastor Connor's sermons.
It's been quite a journey,
hasn't it?
Exploring all these principles of faith and leadership.
You know what I think is so amazing?
What's that?
Is how relevant they are.
Yeah.
Even if you're not coming from a religious background.
Absolutely. You know, it's really resonated with me.
What is it?
Is this idea that everyone has giants to face.
Right.
And while we may not be David the giant slayer, we can still access that same source of strength that he did.
It's about aligning ourselves with something bigger than ourselves, something that can empower us to overcome any challenge.
And in his second sermon,
yeah,
Pastor Connor introduces this really powerful image.
What is it?
The sword.
Oh, yeah.
After defeating Goliath, David keeps Goliath's sword as a reminder.
The reminder of his victory.
Not of his own strength.
Oh, interesting.
But of God's faithfulness.
So it's not a trophy.
No.
It's a symbol of something greater.
Exactly. It's a symbol of victory. A tangible reminder that even the most formidable giants can be overcome.
And for us, that sword might not be a literal object.
Right.
It could be a quote that inspires us, a song that lifts our spirits.
Okay.
Or even a memory of a time we overcame a challenge.
It's anything that connects us to that source of strength.
Right.
That reminds us we're not alone in our battles.
And Pastor Connor uses this phrase, stand on the promises.
Stand on the promises. I like that.
Yeah, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's about grounding ourselves, you know,
yeah,
in that unwavering belief that we are loved, supported and guided.
That we're not alone.
Exactly.
It's about cultivating a deep sense of trust.
Trust, yeah.
A confidence that comes from knowing we are aligned with a purpose greater than ourselves.
And that trust isn't about ignoring the reality of our challenges.
Okay.
It's about approaching them with a different perspective.
So how do we do that?
Well, I think it starts with recognizing that we have access to a power that can transform any situation.
So we don't have to rely on our own limited understanding.
No, we can tap into a wisdom that transcends our own.
Pastor Connor encourages us to walk in victory.
Yeah, to live with that assurance that our giants have already been defeated.
It's a call to action, isn't it?
Absolutely.
An invitation to step into our full potential.
Knowing that we have everything we need to overcome.
And it's not about becoming arrogant or self-reliant.
No, it's about recognizing that our true strength lies in our connection to something bigger than ourselves.
It's about surrendering our ego.
Yeah, our need to control.
And allowing ourselves to be guided by a wisdom that transcends our limited understanding.
You know, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm really struck by the depth and relevance of Pastor Connor's message.
Me too.
He's given us so much to think about.
He has.
So many practical tools for navigating the challenges of leadership, faith, and personal growth.
It's clear that these principles have universal application, offering a path to a more purposeful and meaningful life.
So as you go about your day, remember the lessons we've uncovered. Embrace the power of faithfulness in small assignments. Cultivate discipline. Delegate effectively, and unburden yourself of unnecessary baggage.
Find contentment in your present circumstances.
Yes.
And face your giants with courage.
Knowing that you are not alone in the battle.
And above all, remember to stand on the promises.
To trust in God, who is greater than ourselves.
And to walk in victory, knowing that you have everything you need to overcome.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep striving for a life of purpose and meaning.
And remember, no matter what giant you're facing, you have the power to overcome it with the help of our loving and mighty God.
Thanks for tuning in to another Grace Notes episode. We would love to hear your thoughts. What stood out to you most about David's courage in bringing glory to God? Check the description for links to the Standing on Business sermon series and our full podcast playlist. Don't forget to like and share this episode. Help us reach people where they are and point them to Jesus, the living hope.